Hey, it's Ron McLean. Welcome to Hockey Talk on the Rock.
With Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
Alright, we are back doing Hockey Talk on the Rock, episode number 75, here on Salt Spring Island. This is Laura, I'm Keith, and it is Monday, May the 9th. We are mid-round one of the playoffs. Pretty even series so far. A lot of them, I think, are 2-2.
Yep.
But we're going to start off, as we always do, talking Canucks stuff. So, what do we got?
Yeah, so the Canucks, I would say, for not being in the playoffs, had kind of an interesting week since we last talked, in that they had their year-end pressers, like both with the players and then with Boudreau and then with the management, so Rutherford and Alvin, which is where I think probably the most interesting comments came from, if we want to start there, because Rutherford basically saying that he right now is not open to giving Boudreau more term beyond this next year. So I'd be happy to have him come back on the contract that they signed him to. But if not, if he doesn't want to come back, then it's going to be Boudreau's choice. They went on to make some comments, both of them, about kind of the structure of the team play, which I think was kind of telling. That, again, I think for the management, they're in a tough spot, right? Because if they're not happy with the structure, but they know how popular Boudreau is in the fandom right now, they don't want to let go of him and be seen as the bad guys. So, again, I think leaving this as is right now, and again talking about how he hadn't coached a full season yet, and they wanted to see a full season under Boudreau, I think kind of lets them off the hook a little bit, in that if Boudreau decides that he has a better opportunity somewhere else and he leaves, then it's not on Rutherford and Alvin, and they're kind of not looked at in the dark. Now, again, I'll say kind of like developments that happened after those comments, right, are that the Canucks are talking with that Russian kid. What's his name?
Something. He's 26.
Yeah.
He had a good year.
He had a very good
and
year.
And Boudreau was in on the meetings, yeah.
So, I mean, if he's in on the meetings, you kind of expect that he's going to be back. And I personally, again, think that it would be stupid if he didn't come back. So, we'll see. But
and I mean, Rutherford's had that. He's been using the excuse of Sullivan didn't get extended right after he won a cup. But it's the same but different, because they just won a cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I heard on the radio on the way home today, so as late as like an hour and a half ago, that Frank Saravelli was saying, like, it's not confirmed, but it all but sounds like Boudreau's coming back.
Yeah, and it's so weird, right? Because it sounded like he was coming back like 2 weeks ago, like no problems, and then last week it was like, oh, maybe he's not coming back, and now it sounds like he's coming back again.
I think it's just the Vancouver market, you know?
Yeah, probably.
They just like the talking points.
Yeah. I mean, the other kind of, I guess, the sad part that came out of those year-end pressers was the stuff with Besser and his dad. And, you know, he was obviously really emotional about it during the presser. And I do think that it probably weighed on him during the year. But you could also tell during that press conference, I thought, when he broke down, you could kind of tell with both Hughes and Pettersson, like, they were very involved as well, which was, I mean, it's a horrible thing that Besser's going through, but it was kind of nice to see the kind of teammates supporting each other in that kind of young core.
Mm-hmm. And I think we started to see that a couple of years ago when Besser was holding out for the contract.
Yeah. And
Petey, said, like, I'll drive down to Minnesota and get him myself.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of tell behind the scenes that they have that bond.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It was good. So, I mean, that part of it was nice, but obviously the health stuff with his dad was not nice. But, I mean, again, kind of silver lining for him is that because the Canucks didn't make the playoffs, he will have a longer summer to spend with his family. So, in that regards, it's kind of nice. But yeah, those are kind of the 2 points that I wanted to talk about the Canucks. And then obviously, which kind of ties into the Canucks, was the news that came out this morning that the Islanders had let go Barry Trotz as the coach of their team after 3 pretty highly successful seasons, 2 in which they lost to the eventual Cup winners
in the conference final.
In the conference final, and the first year he won the Jack Adams too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure. And so this third year obviously was a disappointment. I'm wondering, like, I have 2 predictions about where I think Barry Trotz is going to end up. It's not Vancouver, spoiler alerts.
Me too.
But, like, I wonder how much it was that the Islanders wanted to start playing maybe more of an offensive system, and they're realizing again that their core is older and they're going to have to start shifting to some younger players here. But it is somewhat surprising again just because of how successful he was, that he was let go kind of that quickly. But
yeah, it was kind of surprising. It's not going to cost them that much because it's only 1 year of his deal they're letting go. And and I also heard that there's a possibility that he lost the room. Yeah, which happens. Yeah. Surprising though because it has only been for 3 years.
I think 3. Yeah.
4 because they went second round, third round, and then this year.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So. You never know. Never know the true story until someone writes an autobiography 15 years from now. Yeah. But I'd almost bet we have the same 2 predictions.
Okay. Is it Winnipeg and Florida?
I have Winnipeg and Vegas.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I think if Florida loses this series, I almost 100% bet that Trotz will be there. So but if they don't,
that's contingent,
then,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if Florida was out when we were doing this episode, I'd probably have them in place in Vegas. Yeah. But I could see Vegas doing it just because he's the shiny.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
So would he want to do it? I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
Their problem was scoring goals too.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's interesting.
But he's from Manitoba, is he not?
He's from Manitoba, and Winnipeg, like, their whole issue as a team seems to be defensive structure. So to me, Winnipeg makes like 100% sense. Yeah. If he wants to go back home. Yep. And then, obviously the other one we can get to if that situation arises.
Yeah. On that note, though, because we're touching on Winnipeg, I think we talked about it when Maurice left. Yeah. Now that Mike Yo's out officially in Philly, can totally see Maurice going to Philly.
Yeah, I could see that too, actually.
I would be disappointed.
Yeah, no, he's a great coach.
But yeah, they're already talking about Trotz to Philly, and because they're paying Vigneault for like another 3 years, I don't see it.
No.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Time will tell. So, in other week news, are we going to recap our awful predictions, or what do you think?
We can recap our awful predictions and then talk about some of the playoff stuff.
Sounds good. Okay, let's do hot takes because that's the only thing I'm holding this for.
Sounds good.
We've recapped my hot takes. We're probably like 3/4 of the way through the year, and now that it's all over, I officially got 1 out of 11, but if Toronto pulls it off against Tampa, I'll get 2 out of 11.
Oh, wow.
And I'm wearing this because I have a reason. Because when we did our playoff bracket and our pre-first round episode, I wore the Florida jersey and I feel like it jinxed them.
Okay.
So now I'm trying to jinx
Tampa.
Not for my hot takes. But for Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only hot take I got right was saying that Florida was going to win the President's Trophy.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So I right now have 3 out of 10 and a possibility of getting 4, which would be if Florida wins their series and Toronto does not. So that's the one. But the only ones I got right were Montreal missing the playoffs, which at the time was kind of risky, but it wasn't. Eichel didn't play until after January 1st, and Fleury had more wins than Leonard. So
nice.
I was actually pretty proud of that one.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I looked it up. Fleury had 28, Leonard had 23. I mean, part of that was because Leonard was injured for a part of the season. But I'm going to take it, and,
It's a win's a win.
We'll see if that last one comes true.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we did a lovely preseason ranking of each
all
of the
divisions. Yeah.
And I also picked who we thought was going to make the playoffs. And so I'm going to kind of recap how we did on both those things.
That's fine. I'm going to be here for commentary because you couldn't pay me to read what you've written there.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, I can start with the Central. I can just read out, okay, I can do the spoiler part of it. Sure. Which is that we both only picked, we got one team correct out of the entire rankings, of where they'd finished. So I had I had Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, St. Louis, Minnesota, Chicago, Nashville, Arizona. And the only team I got right was Arizona finishing last. yours was basically the same. You had Winnipeg, Colorado, Chicago, Minnesota, St. Louis, Nashville, Dallas, and Arizona. So
we called Arizona sucking.
Yeah.
That doesn't make us smart, unfortunately.
and like everything else was pretty bad.
I was drinking the Chicago Kool-Aid, I'll admit that.
Yeah.
And that did not pay off.
So then in the Metro, again, I think we both had one right here. And that one was... Oh, I had New Jersey finishing in 7th. You had New Jersey finishing 4th.
Yeah, I thought they were going to take a big
Which
step.
was interesting, yeah. And...
No, they didn't.
You might... Actually, you didn't have any for
I
that
didn't
one.
have any right.
Yeah. Okay, and then for the Atlantic, you had 4 right, and I had 1.
Oh, if I flipped Toronto-Boston, I would have done pretty well.
Yeah. So I had Boston right. Did you have... No, you had Florida right.
Toronto actually got 2nd.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah, so I think it's 1-1 again here. Sorry, I can't evidently read my writing because I did 2 different scores. And then in the Pacific, we, like, sucked. Like...
Yeah, we did.
So...
We both drank the Vancouver
We both
Kool-Aid.
drank the Vancouver Kool-Aid. I thought Seattle was going to come in 4th, but admittedly, I've just listened to that episode, and it was only because I wanted to be different than you. And I said it at the time.
And I did put Seattle near the bottom.
Yeah.
But not quite the bottom.
Not quite. You had San Jose right and Edmonton right, and I had nothing. So in the end, in terms of predicting the actual standings, you won 4-3, which is still
that's
not
terrible.
very good. But in predicting playoff teams, I won. So I got 11 right, and you got 7.
Oh, okay.
So, but we did very poorly altogether. Is basically the recap there.
That's awesome.
And yeah, the Pacific and the Metro were the ones that really like killed us because we both had the Islanders and Philly in, and you had New Jersey in. So like it was just like pretty much as bad as you can be. We both have Vegas making the playoffs and Vancouver in the Pacific. So yeah. Anyway, we did poorly.
We'll try and be better next year.
Yeah. Okay, so getting into some playoff talk.
Playoff talk.
I mean, just in general, I feel like it's been a very fascinating playoffs because you've had these games, like the majority of the games seem to be blowouts, but the series are really tight.
Yeah.
So it's very weird to get like the flow between games. There kind of appears to be no flow between games, and in some ways, it's made the series that I was looking forward to the most, which was Tampa and Toronto and St. Louis and Minnesota, to me not that exciting. Like, I don't know, when it's 3-0 for one team, it's like,
well,
okay,
yeah, because the series, like you say, the series is close.
Yeah.
You're like, 2-2.
Yeah.
But like every game, it's like you know who is definitively winning that game.
Yeah. So I honestly feel like right now my favorite series has been Calgary and Dallas, which is ridiculous because I don't really care. Like, I don't know, but it's like at least they're close and there's some anger. Yeah, I know. But to me, it's just made the series like not as interesting as I thought they could have been. And maybe part of that too is also to do with like all the goalies that we've seen in the series. Like, it's just insane, basically.
Yeah, I found myself most invested in the Florida-Washington one because I gave no credit to Washington, and they're obviously proving me and probably everyone else really wrong. Yeah. Depending on how tonight goes.
Yeah, again, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think the Florida can even it up 2-2 if they're,
Definitely possible.
But, yeah, I mean, I didn't... And, thinking about it in retrospect... I really wish I really put more thought into Pittsburgh and like how they probably know in the room that this is their last hurrah, because it seems like that's playing a humongous role.
Well, Sidney Crosby is having like an unreal start to the playoffs. Yeah, like he looks like he's 10 years younger, and I just can't believe how dominant he has been specifically. But that whole team, like if they didn't have Domingue in net, it would just be, I'd be so confident that they're going to win. Yeah. And honestly, I think they're probably going to win even with him in, which is pretty impressive when you consider it. But they just look like that. To me, they clearly look like the better team in that series. Yeah. And I do think I kind of am taking a bit of credit, although he's probably going to like turn around in the next 2 games and get like back-to-back shutouts. But I did kind of predict that Shesterkin wouldn't be as good in the playoffs, only because I just thought it was unrealistic to hold up like that level of play. Mm-hmm. And it is his first kick at this. But I mean, I kind of think it's a bit similar, like, with what's going on with the Florida series, right? It's like, Florida, and it could totally change. This is one that, again, tonight, like it was, when I last looked at the score, it was 1-1. So,
yeah, me too.
who knows, it could be like 5-1 Florida right now. But it does kind of seem like a bit similar to the 2019 Tampa team.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they just haven't learnt about playoff hockey yet. And this is going to be the thing that kind of changes it for them. And Washington is experienced, and they do play a heavy style of hockey, which is more suited for the playoffs. But we'll see, right? We'll see with that series, because so far it's looking like it's shocking everyone. Like, I don't think anyone had in their bracket Washington beating Florida.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. And another one, Dallas and Calgary.
Yeah.
Like, if Dallas comes out tonight and gets another win and puts Calgary down 3-1,
Yeah.
like, I would put all the money on Dallas.
Yeah.
Like, Calgary could squeak a game or two out, but I don't think they're going to win 3 in a row.
I don't think so. And it's funny how quickly the story becomes the same story that we've seen for years with Calgary, right? And I was 100% on board that wasn't going to be the story this year. But it just seems like they can't score.
Yeah.
And, like, Onger has played very well, but I think at a certain point in time, it's like you got to look at your players and be like, no, you got to put the puck in the net.
Yeah.
You got to find a way. And, yeah, quick note about Dallas is I didn't actually realize that they got an Ottinger in that draft where they got Heiskanen and Robertson in it,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So, like, that's pretty unreal. Like, okay. My only other kind of note about the playoffs right now is I was watching a bit of the Boston-Carolina game yesterday. And
yeah, a couple days ago it would have been like, wow, Carolina has this in the bag, and then Boston's doing the Boston
thing. And I do not like Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
I think he's, a dirty rat player, but watching him get under Tony DeAngelo's skin was very amusing, and Tony DeAngelo having a meltdown was also just, I don't know, made me happy. So I was like, I don't like Boston, I don't like Marchand.
Tony D is also a very unlikable character.
Yeah, so
for different reasons.
But it was quite amusing to watch that. So again, that series 2-2, it could go either way. We'll see what happens here. Because this is before Game 5 for Toronto and Tampa, I'm just gonna throw this out there. That I feel like if Toronto doesn't win this series, they're gonna, like, and before the playoffs happened, I wouldn't have agreed with this statement, but the way that this series has gone, I do agree with this statement now. If they don't win it, they have to change something, because if you think about it, specifically with last night's game, they really had a chance to put Tampa on the ropes, and they didn't show up again.
No.
And even Game 2, right? It was like, okay, you had a chance to take a 2-0 series lead, and you didn't show up. So if it goes Tampa's way, then there has to be changes. But again, I have no idea what's going to happen in that series. Yeah.
You've heard it, the sound bites from Dubas and Shanahan starting like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That lack of the killer instinct. And Marlowe even said it too when he left the team. Like, the group lacks the killer instinct, and if they do it again this year, where they've led and then they lose, and then they've led and then they lose, like.
And it's the fact that they lose. Like, if they showed up and they lost, it would be like, okay, at least they're putting in an effort and you can see it coming. But like last night when it was like 3-0 by 8 minutes in, it's like, okay, well, it's going.
I turned it off.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
here.
and I know they did score a couple goals in the third, but it's like it didn't matter at that point.
No.
Anyway, so.
And just to something that we harped on before. Vasilevsky after a loss.
Yeah.
Like, he's unbelievable.
He is unbelievable, and I'll also say this about Vasilevsky. So he hasn't been that good in this series.
No.
So that's another thing that you're either worried about or you're not as a Toronto fan. But if he shows up in this last little bit as the Vasilevsky that we know, it could be a problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I can see it going either way very clearly in my head.
Yeah.
And I guess in a similar note, like Edmonton, that series is a bit like that as well, except for the fact that they had like those two like absolute blowouts in a row over LA. But last night again with McDavid, it's like, okay, you could have put kind of the nail in the coffin in this game, and they didn't really
Yeah.
come to play.
And I was surprised to hear with LA that they've had like 11 players play their first playoff games this year. Like that's pretty crazy too.
It
Like
is
especially
crazy.
because you think of like Brown and Kopitar and Quick and like the old core that's been there and done that, but like you don't realize how many players have not.
Yeah.
So am I wrong to say that tonight could be the first night that we knock out a team?
Yeah, and that's the only series we didn't really talk about because I feel like it hasn't been very interesting.
No.
Because Colorado is just killing Nashville.
Well, except game 2. Full credit to
Game
Connor
2
Ingram because
was
he played
entertaining.
amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
In like his 4th NHL game ever or whatever. He played really good. I watched a lot of that game. And like McKinnon and McCarr alone had so many opportunities. And the saves he was making, he looked calm and made him look easy.
Yeah.
But then he didn't play that good in the next game.
No. And the goalie thing, like again, it comes back to there's been a lot of goalie injuries in the last part of the season and now the first round of the playoffs as well. And it is kind of sad. Like I mean, I feel the worst for Nashville because like if they had Saros, I do feel like it would be different. And you know, I mean, you could kind of say maybe the same thing about Carolina with Anderson, except for the fact that they're a better team, right? Like they're all around a better team, so it's like a little bit less of a blow. But anyway, and then Pittsburgh too, right? But yeah. Anyway.
Norris Trophy finalists came out today.
Yes.
Another reason I'm wearing the Tampa jersey because
Yeah.
Hedman didn't get it. We nailed it. We're super smart.
Yeah.
We called all 3.
Yeah.
Yossi McCarr was pretty much given.
Yeah.
And then Hedman is the 3rd.
Yeah.
Who's gonna get it? You think?
Okay, so I think it's gonna be McCarr.
For the goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna stick with my guy Yossi.
yeah, if you're asking me who I'd want it to be, I would probably say Yossi for this year.
If you ask me who I want it to be, I don't want it to be Hedman.
I mean, I agree with that too, but I just don't think it's gonna be.
No, I know.
He is the best defenseman in the league.
Yeah.
Like hands down,
Yeah.
all around, he's the best defenseman. But I think they're gonna give it to McCarr. A bit of like the kind of Fox thing last year, but also those goals.
Yep, it could happen.
Anyway.
Time will tell. And then tomorrow they're coming out with the Vezina finalists, which I think Kevin Weeks leaked it already today. Do you see that?
Shesterkin, Saros, and Markstrom.
Yeah. Not surprising. I can't remember if we predicted those 3, but I think we were on it.
We definitely
with 2
talked about those 3.
Yeah,
but
we definitely had Shesterkin and Saros in our top 3, but I can't remember if we agreed Markey would be there.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's gonna. That one's easy. It's Shesterkin, right? But
yeah.
Props to Markstrom, even though he's a traitor.
Yeah. And it's karma. That's why they're losing to Dallas.
Well, it's because they wanted all those Canucks, right? They wanted to see what happened in the playoffs. Anyway. But yeah, so we'll see how the rest of the first round goes. The series should be wrapping up, soon-ish. Although a lot of them are going 6. So
yeah, a lot of them are going 6. We could see some 7s.
Yeah.
I still think Minnesota, St. Louis are a lot to go 7.
Except for the fact that I think that maybe Minnesota wins it in 6, and the only reason why I say that is because of the defensive issue, like injuries for.
Oh, because Krug and Scandella is
so
down
they're
there.
like getting down there, and I'm assuming they're gonna start Bennington again tomorrow because he won. And I just don't know. I think maybe there's a possibility that it ends in 6 for Minnesota. But if any other scenario, I say it goes 7.
Hot take of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will be doing this again probably in like a week's time.
Yep.
To wrap up round 1 and do an episode mini for round 2 of the bracket challenge.
Yeah.
See where we're at with that. So I think that's it. Do you got anything else?
No, I think that's everything.
All right. Well, there we go. That's a wrap on episode number 75. Keith and Laura doing Hockey Talk on the Rock. Thanks for listening.
Woo!